Welcome back to High Strangeness in Alaska, the Bigfoot studies. This was going to be an expedition episode. However, my buddy couldn't make it, so I just wanted to start poking around. I was planning on going to the Kenai Peninsula. Shout out to Alex Petikoff. I've got his Slav Squatch sticker there. It's because of him that I even came here. Him and Rob Roy Menzies were talking about Hatteras Pass being probably the biggest hot spot near Anchorage in south central Alaska, besides, when you make it down to the peninsula and around the arm there. But my buddy couldn't make it, so I thought I'd poke around and just check out Hatteras Pass. I had a couple ideas. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to the one area of the pass where I went into 4x4 to some places because it's actually shut down, it looks like, for the winter. But I'll have to talk to Rob Roy because he knows some camping spots, and I'm kind of bummed that winter is about to start because Rob Roy camps a lot. He spends a lot of time outdoors with his dogs, going camping on the weekends, and I missed out on a lot of expedition opportunities with him because I was busy with all my own hunting and trips I was going on. But next summer, especially, I didn't even really connect with him till late summer. But next summer, I definitely want to join him and bring our dogs out and do some expeditions. It'd be amazing. But I wanted to talk about Bigfoot near humans, human communities. Obviously, when you get out into rural places, that is where you're going to have more of a chance to see Bigfoot. But in some country, it's just difficult terrain. Like, I had to literally scramble on all fours this last quarter of this mountain because it's just so steep. I'm thinking about just sliding down the snowbank a little ways to get back down because it's going to be awful going back down. It is so steep. And I parked at the road, and I purposely did not take a hiking trail. I like taking game trails. We call it bushwhacking here in Alaska, where you just go through the brush and make your own trail, follow the game trails of animals. So I wanted to poke around and see what I could see, but you really get a sense of how vast and rugged and dangerous this land is. I unearthed a rock and it went tumbling down and just bouncing and bouncing. Thankfully, there was no one behind me. It's a pretty dangerous area. So like I was saying, when you get away from people, my favorite is going by airplane or boat. That way, once you're off the road system, everything's more wild, more animals, more possible cryptid sightings. But some areas, there tend to be a decent amount of sightings, even though there's somewhat of a human presence. I would give, for example, Northern California. Now, Northern California is rural. The towns there are spread out and very small, but it is still way more inhabited than we are here in Alaska, and that is a Bigfoot hotspot. I mean, this Bigfoot are around people, and it doesn't take much to get away from the human presence. You pretty much just get over one ridge like this and you're in the wild, and the only people that you might see are the occasional hikers or hunters, really. And it's funny, as hunters are a large part of Bigfoot sightings because they're the ones that will go out. Also, the backpacking hikers, they'll do it too, but hunters are, they'll bring their extreme mountain gear and they'll go out for days camping and trying to press into the wild to get where the animals are. So they see Bigfoot, but I believe they're out here. I didn't see any possible cryptid tracks. I did see some animal tracks, possible wolf, things like that, and there's an airplane out there. I saw some tracks of some kind of small animal that was going across the face of one of these snow faces, which is pretty interesting because on some of the footage you see there's some famous ones where the Yeti or the Sasquatch is going across a mountain and his strides are too big to be a human. He's going way fast, just, you know, jaunting along there, and it's usually across a snow bank like that, a snow face. So it's kind of interesting. All right, once again, we're here with Rob Roy Menzies, and I'm at the Bigfoot Art Gallery in Palmer, Alaska. Tell us about the shop.
Oh, the Bigfoot Art Gallery. It's a unique place to go if you're into Bigfoot. It's the only Bigfoot themed store in the entire state of Alaska. So
Very
toot
cool.
my little horn there. It was my own crazy idea. It started out as a matting and framing business, which it still is, of course. We got my wonderful employee Pia is busily working, because we are very busy. No time for interviews, hardly.
Right.
I expect her to smack me with a ruler pretty soon. But yeah, so we're expanded into, of course, Bigfoot stuff and some alien stuff, because it's all good.
Yeah.
And of course, guitars, because I love guitars. I'm a guitar nerd, so we sell guitars. And masks. You know, masks kind of go hand in hand with the Bigfoot thing.
Right.
Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I've owned it for about 4 years, and it's been extremely, keeps me very busy. And but it also gives me opportunities to meet a lot of locals, a lot of people, even in the tourists from out of state. I get to hear a lot of stories. People come in, they open up to me. Which is great, because I get to hear all kinds of things, which I bought a recorder so I can start recording these stories.
Very nice.
Anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and I hope I can continue this for the next 40 years.
Right.
So there it is.
Awesome. Well, we're doing a video this week, and I got a video from Beans In, which is a lot of fun, but I wanted to ask you about your insights or stories about Bigfoot around communities of people, towns. Do they hang out on the edge of town? Do they come into town? Do they stay away from people? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, now I've read some stories where they do linger around the outskirts. I've read a couple books. I want to say one is the Hoopa Project. David Paulides. There was a story in there where one was getting into a lady's, more or less, I guess it was a garbage shed, and you know, it was her time of the month, let's just say, and she had been throwing these out, and they think that's what attracted it.
Oh, wow.
But I've heard not just that, but that one stands out to me. But there's been, you know, I've heard a lot of rumors. I've talked to people with chickens missing that have had rocks being thrown. I would think they are simply opportunistic and just if they feel comfortable moving in on a certain territory, I think they would most definitely grab stuff if it's available.
I have heard about kind of garbage Bigfoot,
Yeah.
kind of similar to bears. I've heard a couple stories where they're getting into people's
I've heard
trash.
that too, and I'm like, well, I guess so. If I'm living out in the woods and I'm hungry,
Yeah.
I would be, the only thing I would be, why don't we see more of that? You know, why don't we see dumpster diving Sasquatches more?
Yeah.
Which I've heard of. I've heard of people seeing them jumping out of dumpsters, or you know,
Yeah.
not often, but I've read those. Whether they're true or not, I don't know. But I would think they would be in the outskirts, and that seems to be where a lot of eyewitnesses live, are on the outskirts.
Right.
Their backyard is a state forest or something, and so nobody lives. You know. Anyway, there's all this open range, and I think it's credible that they would move in on, you know, closer to, you know, civilization to eat, to feed.
Yeah.
Maybe even to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. You know, I hear people. The word habituate comes up, where people either move into a house or they build a house on some land, and these things are already there, and over time it seems to be a relationship builds between the two. Not like, you know, shaking hands and having coffee, but kind of you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then it goes in from there. I've heard stories where they're mocking people.
Oh, wow.
Actually calling their dog, you know, that sounds like them.
Yeah.
You know, they actually mock people. So much like a bird, you know, some birds learn how to talk. You know, I think these things all show that they probably do come a little closer than we think they do. I don't think they stay long.
Right.
I think it's kind of a touch and go thing. But certainly if they know that this one certain house down the street, man, he's always got this turkeys in his garbage, right?
Right.
So they just know that's a good spot to hit, like a bear.
Yeah.
We all know, that one night in summer, you accidentally leave some garbage outside.
Yep.
And you wake up the next day and that garbage is everywhere. Well, that bear is going to be back the next day. It's like he knows it's like a drive-through now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go back there and get another meal, So you got kind of a little problem. You got to get rid of this bear the next couple days.
Yeah.
At least be watching around. So I think Sasquatches would be capable of doing something similar to that.
Right. Do you think they have different personalities and some just want to go way out and just stay away from people?
I think so. I mean, I wouldn't see why not. I would think there's bears that live probably never seen humans before. And maybe there's still Sasquatch that have never seen a human before.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. But certainly I think the idea is out there. So,
Yeah.
but
Awesome. Thank you.
So over the years, I've heard some stories about Bigfoot showing up in like the outskirts of a city or town, in busy campgrounds, just in places where people are, which you don't hear a lot of. You don't typically hear stories of Bigfoot, walking down the main street of a town or something like that. But occasionally you did get a story of like a Bigfoot coming into the outskirts of a town, maybe dumpster diving, digging through garbage, looking for food, something like that. And I think a lot of that probably comes from encroachment, development, logging, a depletion of resources, be it food or habitat. And I think that sometimes can push Bigfoot closer to civilization than we would expect them to be. One example is somebody comes in, logs a large area of forest. The Bigfoot are now without their native habitat and they can't find any food, so they go closer to civilization, to humans than they normally would, and you'll find them, digging through dumpsters or maybe stealing food from nearby houses, or even I've heard them of taking food out of freezers that were on people's porches, stuff like that. And I think that's where you get a lot of that kind of interaction. Some of it might also be younger or adolescent Bigfoot that are curious. They want to know what we're about. Possibly, like any youngster or petulant adolescent, they're pushing the boundary. I'm sure the older Bigfoots probably try and keep them away from us or tell them to stay away, and they just want to, like a lot of teenagers, they just want to push the boundary and just go see what happens when they go over here, or they're curious and they want to see what we're about. What are these lights coming out of these structures? Why do they go on and off? How come the light comes on when the human comes outside? Stuff like that, and that might lead to a lot of the interactions you hear about with Bigfoot. Maybe throwing rocks at houses, cabin structures, stuff like that. They want to watch us either for entertainment or to figure out what we're about, to gain knowledge. Maybe they can figure out, like, maybe if I throw one more rock, that light will come on and he'll come out again, and I can figure out why it does that this time. So that's why I think, you see a lot of interactions between Bigfoots and humans in populated areas, or more populated than you would expect. I think a lot of it is due to encroachment, curiosity. And I think that Bigfoot probably in some areas do live closer to civilization than we would expect. And, one of the major ways they're able to get away with this, one of the main reasons is, people just don't expect them to be there. You're not looking for it. You don't see it. That's the reason why a lot of people on motorcycles, people pull out in front of them and they get hit. When you're stopped at an intersection, you're looking for cars. You're not looking for motorcycles. So most people when they're going about their daily lives, they're looking for other people. They're looking for cars, vehicles. They're not looking for Bigfoot. So it's just not something that we're wired to be on the lookout for. So I think that probably a lot of times they'll get away with maybe being near civilization, especially, you know, if you're far away and you see somebody walking through a field, you're like, well, that's kind of weird. There's some, you know, some farmers out there like tending to his crops or something. You don't really think that that might not be a human. It's not really on your radar. It's not something that you're expecting to see. So I think that might be how they kind of get away with living on the fringes of society, maybe with occasional incursions into populated areas to either do recon or look for food or other resources. And that's what I think, you know, as far as a lot of these more urban Bigfoot sightings go.
But I do think that the human presence does push the Sasquatch, the hairy man, farther away, and that's why we see them in Catchmack Bay, because it's the end of the road. And just like Beans Baxter was saying, civilization has slowly gone farther, I guess, southwest on that road, and it's pushed everything back. And now it's to the point where, you know, you can't drive to where they are. You got to take a boat. But here, I mean, this is not a very populated area, because you really can't have a house in the mountains like this. As we get farther west, we get into some forested areas that I definitely want to explore, and those are the spots that Rob Roy Menzies has some places where he likes to camp. So next summer, we're going to do some expeditions and kind of explore those areas. And there are some areas where I could take the 4x4 vehicle out and kind of push a little farther out and get out there. But I do think that they're here. It's just so difficult to travel through this terrain, as I'm going to find out when I go down the hill there. So pretty nice to be out here, though. I'm really loving it. And I think I got some footage from Beans Baxter, hopefully Rob Roy, that I'll run here. But thank you all for tuning in. I love doing expeditions like this, so we're going to try to keep it going. I hope my buddy can meet me one of these weekends. We're going to go to that spot. I do want to draw some pictures of it, keeping my journal updated on all these little trips and where I went, what I saw, has been really fun with this investigation. But what we're looking at on the peninsula there are these short Bigfoot that are like 5 feet tall with really giant hobbit feet and big fangs, and they're really mean. And an old timer told my buddy Tim about it, and the old timer, Tim says, is just really solid, doesn't make stuff up, doesn't tell lies, and there's an actual community of them. And Rob Roy is an illustrator. I do some illustration too, so I want to draw pictures of them. But Rob Roy really wants to illustrate those too, so I'm going to try to get a really good description for him of those. But that's going to be an upcoming expedition. I'm hoping the snow will keep getting pushed back farther into November, because for this week it's going to be rain, at least in the lower elevation. This snow is old. So I am going to poke around and look at some tracks, see if I can find any tracks while I'm out here. But thank you all for tuning in every Sunday. I'm just having a blast doing these Bigfoot videos and paranormal videos. We're going to do some more UFO stuff. But thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next Sunday. If I don't fall down the mountain, I'll give you a view of what we're dealing with here. Beautiful.